Gonna record, and if you guys want to start, Blue Irises, take it away.
So Shareout 2.
So first up is our research. So I really looked into what the Cleveland Clinic is doing currently. And so what they're doing right now is they're using the READ model to basically tell patients, like, delivering bad news. So there's an online course that physicians can go up for. So it's all about the relationship. Establishment, like building rapport and everything. Development by like physical exams, meds and allergies and all of those kind of things. And then engagement, education, management, shared decision making, and then, everything's done. Thanks. So it's completely optional, and it's a self-paced, completely online course with brief interactive videos, which it's completely just for healthcare providers. And so like they really use this model in order to have this course for like delivering bad news specifically.
So for the first interview, just basically what we got from that. So a quote from Mr. DeSantis. Statistics are just that, and he kind of went in on like how statistics are just statistics, and it's really hard to go based off of statistics when you're dealing with medicine in general, because everybody's case is different. And then he advocated for care that results in his cancer diagnosis. So he talked about how he received the information and how like the guy was like, according to my calculations, and like how he wouldn't recommend that being the way to be told like, hey, you have like a life-threatening illness. And then didn't tell his statistics, despite one of his first questions being how long do I have. So he didn't really focus on the stats, despite like the questions that he had. So that's like one thing that we kept in mind, because he had the thing where he kept saying, it took him a while to live instead of waiting to die. That's how he put it. And then, yeah, again, like he didn't wish the healthcare professionals to have like the more nerdy or like medical terminology for it, instead of like just trying to explain in a way that he could understand. And then one thing he emphasized was no Googling as a patient.
Okay, so for the second interview, Campbell, he was very different from the first one because he was like, as he called himself a nerd, to cope with him having cancer. He really dug into learning more about the actual cancer itself. And he also talked about like having a support group that helped him. And like unlike the first interview, like he kind of already was expecting the cancer, so it didn't really give him as much shock. Like he told us that the best way for him was just a straightforward, you have cancer, because like he was already like he knew he already had cancer. Like he knew everything beforehand, so it wasn't so much like a shock to him when everything happened.
So I did some general information, looked into general information about sarcoma, and I found that it's a type of cancer that starts in the tissue such as bone and muscle, and there are two main types of sarcoma, which are bone sarcoma and soft tissue sarcoma. Bone sarcoma is a malignant tumor that can destroy bone and spread to other tissue, most commonly the lungs. The relative 5-year survival rate, if it hasn't spread to surrounding tissue, is 77%. If it has spread to surrounding tissue, the percentage drops to 65%. For soft tissue sarcoma, it develops in tissues like fat, muscle, nerves, blood vessels, etc. It can develop in basically any part of the body and can spread to different parts of the body. The relative 5-year survival rate, if it has not reached the lymph nodes or nearby organs, is 65%. If it has reached the lymph nodes or surrounding organs, the percentage drops to 50%. And once it spreads more and more throughout the body, throughout the tissue in the body, the percentage drops even more to 18%.
So here's a little bit on like what we're keeping in mind for like challenge definition. So we really want to keep like the patient centered care, like really focusing in on the patient and like what they what their needs and wants are, and then also keeping with the empathy base. Connecting with the patients is key, and so like any solution that we have is just like really keeping a bond between the physician and the patients.
Yeah, and for like patients that take care, just more so thinking about like per case, like not just like having a general, hey, this is how you tell a patient, but per case, because like we saw with Campbell versus Mr. DeSantis, it was like, hey, don't tell me like all these stats and everything. I don't want to hear that. Whereas Campbell was like, give me statistics. I want like papers on like my disease and things like that.
So our solution is a crash course. Our solution is to create like an easy to understand video that contains all the information that the patients would need to know in general. The video would be around 1 to 2 minutes long, with various data and information so that the clients can understand what they need to know.
So why are we choosing our crash course? So for a crash course, it's very like wide range. So like it can be for children all the way up to adults, and also there's a lot of engagement. So like there's a lot of engagement throughout all ranges of age. Crash courses are just usually a fun way to understand topics. I know when I was growing up, like in second grade, like science class, learning photosynthesis, we used to watch crash courses on YouTube, and like that really allowed me to engage within the topic.
So what separates like our idea from pre-existing ideas or like solutions? So while like Cleveland Clinic have the READ method, and this specifically for physicians, ours would be for physicians and patients. So patients one end for like the information and obtaining that information on like, hey, these are the survival rates in a way that they can understand, because a big part of the challenge is trying to tell them those stats in a way that they do understand. And then it will be like a quiz / review on the physician side. So when taking like the crash course, actually knowing that they're obtaining that information and not breezing through it would be like a check-in. So like scenarios, hey, if a patient had cancer, what do you think is the best way to tell them? And then just like have like questions that are like, answers that are like, I was told it this way, and the why behind it, so that they understand what to do, and not only understanding what to do, but the reasoning behind what they're doing and what the crash course is asking for, and then variety of information. So like infographics for the patient side, and just honestly information about like behavior for the physicians, and how to kind of go per case, and then things like body language and stuff like that. Yeah.
So our next steps are to work on storyboarding, figure out music. We have a general idea of what we want, but we need the right song. More in-depth research into to see what exactly needs to be included in the video.
All right, perfect. Do you guys have someone who can take some notes of some kind? I'm seeing many notes happening. That's totally fine. I have just some questions, and I'd love we can talk to really figure out your guys' solution idea, because I think it's really interesting. Were you able to see the READ model at all? Like get to see, or was like, I'm sure it's a course you have to like sign up for and take and all that. Were you able to see any examples of it?
There is a study that I was able to find, like literally like describing the READ model and how it came to be. But did I see it in like actually like it being used like in videos? No.
Right.
It's just
It's probably hard to get access to.
Like I literally tried to sign up for the course, but it was just like, where do you work?
Right.
And it's just like, this is definitely just for healthcare providers.
Yeah, that's tough. But you were able to find a study that looked at how well it worked. What did they find?
They were just like, it's way better because it's also based off of like previous studies on like how to interact with patients and how to deliver bad news. So
better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. And like it's generally like when you look up like the READ model, Cleveland Clinic comes up because it's their model. And it works generally well for like building empathy within physicians, and also putting out their diagnosis in a way that makes sense and is sympathetic.
Yeah, it's interesting because you guys start talking about the READ model. You talk through a couple different things, good background on sarcoma. But your solution is not physician-centered, right? It's centered on something that would be delivered to the patient.
Yeah. Oh, so it's like the two-side thing.
Okay.
Like for the crash course, that side of it would be for test and crash courses for physician and delivering information, and then for the information like obtaining information side would be for the patient. So like delivering like infographics, but in a way that so like the physicians would see like the infographics and everything and have like the crash courses show them how to explain it to the patient. So it's really focused on patient delivery from physicians.
Right. So it sounds like there's two different videos you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're planning on making two separate crash courses?
Yeah.
Or that is your solution? Okay. So then in that case, what separates the way you guys want to approach those two different crash courses?
Really just like the language, like I was looking into the metaphors and how easy it is to understand for like the general public, even if you're not like literate in medical terminology. So just really using different language, separating from different videos and talking about. So one thing, like a couple videos on YouTube that it were like the something sisters, it's like two blobs, one pink and one purple one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're like a typical like science thing, and it's really interesting for like kids to watch. And then, but they don't use like metaphors, and it's more so medical terminology with cute little characters. So that as a form of delivery for the aesthetic, but using actual like metaphors for different age groups and things to understand.
Interesting. I mean, what I'm hearing though is that there's a lot here. Because what you're talking about is creating a video series that would be, or a video that would be helpful for physicians to watch, to know how to talk to patients about stuff, versus a patient-centered, metaphor-based creative video that you would like give to a patient to help them understand something. My concern is that that's a lot to do in the next 8-9 days. So I would just throw out that maybe it would be helpful for you guys to choose one direction. And which one what like listening, things you've read, hearing Mr. DeSantis and Campbell talk about it, where do you think the issue is? Is the issue in how or what information is being delivered? Is the issue on what the patients know and find out? Like where does the problem, like there's interaction happening between provider and patient, and something seems to not be working according to Jake and Mitchie. And where do you think you want to intervene on that?
I think so far, like the two like hot spots that I can identify are the delivery, like how the physician delivers the information to the patient specifically, and it not being like patient centered and it not being like per case. And then the second hot spot is being what happens after, so like the aftermath, the Googling or the like trying to find different, like medical remedies to like or curants, things like that. So those are the two hot spots. So like our delivery video would be I think that's where the two videos came in. So like one video for the physician specifically and the other to stop the patient from like going on a Google rampage.
Right.
So maybe picking one of those hot spots and then one that focuses on delivery or one that focuses in on trying to deliver the information to the patient so they won't have to Google.
Yeah, well, what is the first thing both of these two patients we talked to Google? What do they want to find out?
They want to find out their likeliness to live, like for how long.
How long I live. That is kind of what Jake said, and it's funny because Mr. Sanders was like, don't Google. Then it was like, what's the first thing you did? I Googled, am I gonna die, right? Like, that's the first thing. What do you think could change about a provider-patient interaction that would prevent that from happening?
If you give them enough information so they don't have to Google.
Okay, so that's like one site of intervention that you guys are looking at.
If they like get this video instead of like leaving them to go off and like search things up on Google, it might help them more than like just going on Google and finding a bunch of like random statistics and facts about their thing that they probably would like scare them even more.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like there is an issue where patients are coming away without enough information for whatever reason. And there's a couple different potential reasons. It could be that the provider's not, like you could either say, okay, let's get the provider to give them that information in a good way, or you could give them an actual thing that they can then watch later that would satisfy that information they need. A video that you guys create that's accessible and interesting, right? Those are kind of two different things. And I'm curious, in the challenge delivery with Jake and Mitchie, do you guys remember we're trying to like pull all the way back to, 2 weeks ago?
We should probably like more so explain the thing that he wrote on the board about like the pre-existing way of like the 5-year yeah, or like that. So like explaining that, because the one thing that he emphasized was like that is what they use, but they can't deliver that information because it's hard to understand.
Right.
So trying to put that in a video, that specifically in a video to deliver to the patient would be kind of the most promising solution, I would think.
Why?
Because if we can explain to them in a way that they understand the survival rates and how they're calculated, then there wouldn't be a reason for them to go on a Google search about how long will I have and like things like that, because we are giving them they understand. Well, in theory, they would understand kind of what the math is to it, or like what the survival rate is during different periods of time and why.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because do you guys remember Jake saying, what happens immediately after you tell someone that they have cancer?
They only remember, well, I don't know if Jake said this, but the research that I did, they only remember about 20% because the rest of the 80% gets lost. So that's why they would recommend bringing another person to any like medical appointment.
Right. Yeah, and you can't guarantee that will happen, but that's ideal, right? Also, that research to me is like front and center for your final presentation to say, this is our problem, right? Because what you're saying about training the physicians, that won't happen. Because they're not going to hear, they can say however they want, people are only hearing 20% of it. It sounds like you guys are coming up with an idea to create a document that they can go home with that would prevent them from needing to Google. Because like, I'm with you, I fully, the first thing I would be is like, okay, what is my chance of living? Like, right, like that's absolutely the first thing I would think. And rather than not tell that, is there a way you can give that to them that's accessible, understandable, gentle? And it sounds like what you guys are leaning towards is this kind of crash course video idea, this like interesting, accessible video. Are you imagining filming you guys? Are you imagining animation? Or what are you guys imagining for this? Or is that kind of
Unfortunately.
Animation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
How are we feeling? I'm looking around. I'm seeing some people who can animate,
Yeah,
but
so-
also have had mixed positive experiences with
To
it.
say the least, I am way more confident in this group's ability to animate in 8 days than my experience animating.
Yeah.
So.
So Shweta, Haley, you guys both have experience animating, correct? DJ, you have experience storyboarding, voice acting, like generally creative managing, like you had a group that was able to together, and even though you didn't animate, like you were doing a lot of stuff in that group. This is the kind of group you guys could do that. I think you guys have the right put together. I'm seeing some eyes over to Shweta. Do you agree that you guys could do this?
I could.
Are you understanding that this will be a tremendous amount of work over the next
Absolutely.
week? Yeah. Is
I
that what you're
have
thinking about?
other things that I'm already stressing about.
Yeah. So I think that's a thing to think about. I love this idea of video. I think a creative way to introduce survival statistics, but also like, how do we help you understand this big question? How long am I gonna live, right? Like that's like a big question I have, and trying to help people understand the complexity of it. If you guys wanna do an animation, be prepared to either A, make it like a black and white initial run. Was it?
Bare bones.
Yeah, bare bones. I've got animatic. There's like a name for it, right?
Yes, I know
Or to have it literally be like storyboard. That's nicely laid out. If you guys want to work with Mr. Weitzman to figure out what the scope of this could be, that's totally fine. But just think about whether you want it to be an animation or like many YouTube videos, it could be someone with some light animated elements around them. Maybe that's a little bit easier. I don't know.
We might do just pick art. Pick art takes way less time than doing frame by frame. So like just moving around pre-existing characters, like you can move their hands and stuff like that, and just have it like, and then just do a voiceover.
I mean, how does that sound? Bless you. How does that sound for you guys? Pick art. Do you guys have any experience with that?
What do you mean?
Like how they already have the characters on Adobe Animate, if you just move them, and if you do that, just voiceover.
Instead of frame by frame.
Yeah, like what's actually drawing.
I have zero experience with that, and I had no clue what it is.
So that could be challenging to learn while you're doing. What programs do you know, Shweta?
I know how to animate clip art, and it's usually just a bunch of recoloring and just tweaking, but I know how to do like animating clip art and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, what programs do you have experience with?
I have experience with Photoshop, Illustrator, and that's really it. I have also other experience with like outside
Outside
drawing
programs.
stuff.
Oh, just like, yeah, both of you draw a lot. And actually, all three of you draw and can draw. And then, like, the big question and what you ran into is like, okay, how do I translate this to this totally different medium? It sounds like, honestly, if you guys would like, it sounds like what would be really helpful for you guys is to try to talk to Mr. Weitzman about, like, scope, right? What is a way that you can do this that doesn't require 5 hours of work a night, because you can't do it realistically, right? We don't want to bite off something that's literally impossible to do right now, but also would give you something you would be happy with that could be some kind of example or animatic or something like that. I'm thinking a little bit of one of the groups, like Lydia, Maya, Bree, Clara last time did like a comic book that they voice over, like, which is a lot easier than filling in each individual frame, right, and just creating movement. So would you guys want to go meet with Mr. Weitzman right now and try to find him over in Act 2 and talk to him?
Probably debrief first then.
Debrief first, then what you want to go over?
Yeah.
Okay. Would that feel helpful today?
Yeah.
Because I'm running the end of my like technical knowledge and understanding. I would love to see you guys create an animation, and I would love, or any video, and I'd love to help you with like the content of it. But it's gonna be really hard for me to help you guys with the technical stuff. And before you commit to something, and then it's Tuesday of next week, and you have deleted something by accident or right, whatever, all the technical stuff that comes in, I'd love for you guys to be able to plan out and touch base with him first. Would that feel good today? Debrief, figure out what direction you want to go in, and then if you want to do an animation or use animated elements, just let me know and go check in with Mr. Weitzman. Does that feel good? I think it's a really interesting idea. Think about the style you want, what's going to make it accessible, and also, is it going to be accessible for a 60-year-old and a 16-year-old, or 6-year-old, yeah. And I think you can do that. So that's kind of the direction it sounds like you guys need to go next. Do you guys have any other questions for me?
No.
Okay, cool. Go debrief and then put a message on the group meeting if you guys need to go talk to Mr. Weitzman, all right?
Okay.